Penn State Wrestling is once again the champion of the NCAA Tournament National Champions. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. Greg Pickel was there for all 4 days, grinding it out to get you the latest conversation and post-duel interviews with all of the wrestlers out in Philadelphia. Greg, it was a marathon weekend. Thank you for all your coverage here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel and especially at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. But we're not giving you any rest. Now you got to talk about it. Now you got to come on this show and we got to talk about all the latest things with Penn State Wrestling, which of course includes a new commitment, some transfers, and of course we're going to get to the national championship conversation to start the show. But first off, Greg, how are you doing? How you feeling after that long weekend?
Yeah, it's Monday after the NCAA Championships, and big recruiting news for Penn State, T. Frank. I was not necessarily expecting us to roll into the 2025-2026 season so quickly. I was on the train back to the Harrisburg area on Sunday, and I was getting some 2025-2026 lineup stuff together, and I thought, yeah, that might be good for later in the week. We're getting into spring football practices, things like that, and sure enough, we're going to have that conversation right out of the gate on Monday because the 2024-2025 season's now over. 2025-2026 is officially underway, I guess. And T. Frank Ono's coming to Penn State. It's a big deal in the wrestling world.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what you know about the transfer here from Japan, correct?
Yeah. So Pat Minio of the Wrestling Room late last week, reported that Ono was in the student directory. He's a U20 champion, a world champion at 61 kilograms, and which is about 133 pounds. Japanese superstar wrestler who came over to the United States to wrestle Spencer Lee, the former Iowa standout, in a Flow event. Beat him at that. Dropped down to I think 59.5 kilograms, somewhere between 125 and 133. I think that's like 127 pounds, give or take. And so he's outstanding. He is a freestyle champ in all kinds of different ways, and like I said, including the senior world level. Has not necessarily wrestled folk style before, so Penn State's going to have to get him up to speed on that, but I don't think it's a huge deal. I don't think it's going to take him long to figure it out. The guy's outstanding, and I know the question everyone has, T. Frank, is where is he going to go in the lineup? So he committed live on Flow on Monday morning, March 24, and he basically joked that they told him he could wrestle whatever weight he wanted to as long as he came to Penn State. So I think 133 makes the most sense for him. Obviously, at 61 kilograms is where he's at on the international scene. He was asked where he's going to compete at the World Championships later this year in the freestyle world, and said either 57 or 61, which is either 125 or 133, basically. Interestingly enough, T. Frank, he actually beat Marcus Blaze, the Penn State top class 2025 signee, at a freestyle event. I think it was late last year, sometime during the 2024 international freestyle scene. So they have some familiarity. Marcus projects as the guy at 141, where of course Bo Bartlett leaves after ending up on the list of wrestlers who were really good but did not win a national title, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So Ono makes sense at 133. The question just becomes, what does Penn State do there? You have a bit of a logjam. Braden Davis returns. Aaron Nagao comes off an injury, and you have Ono now coming. We assume Luke Lillidahl. I talked to him in Philly after the third place round, or the medal round rather, his third place match at the NCAA Championship. Sounds to me like he's going to wrestle 57 kilograms in the international at the U.S. Open, things like that. So I expect him to stick at 125. So 133, there'll be a competition there. We'll see how it plays out. But Ono is coming. I don't think he's going to go up to 141. I think 133, but time will tell.
Yeah, and that's obviously working things out at the lower weights has always been something that Penn State Wrestling has done, and moving guys around. Some guys develop, some guys move up, but that's adding more talent there. Definitely not going to hurt their chances for yet another national championship in 2025, 2026, which is what we get to now. It was a presumed outcome. We were talking about history and not about the if Penn State would win another national championship, even though you can't really guarantee that any team is going to win a national championship. But it seems like Penn State is one of the few dynasties that delivers. That very few times do they lose in an upset fashion. Yeah. However, the way they got there was not the way we expected. So let's get into that. Let's go through all 10 weight classes and talk about what happened for the Nittany Lions. Obviously, Luke Lillidahl, you just led to it there. Third place finish for Lightning Luke as a freshman. Take us through this weekend and how you viewed his performance.
Yeah, got beat by Sheldon Seymour of Lehigh in the well before the championship round. Ended up wrestling back to finish third. I think that if he didn't wrestle Sheldon Seymour earlier this year, he ends up winning that match. I think Seymour learned from what Luke Lillidahl did to beat him back in the dual meet in December and used it against Luke Lillidahl, and he wasn't able to finish a couple shots and ended up getting beat toward the end. So not the outcome he wanted, but he does wrestle back for third. Obviously hungry to get out on the freestyle scene now and then return to folk style when the college season starts next year. I assume he will go into the 2025-2026 season as the favorite at 125 pounds, considering he was the top seed this year, and some guys that were, wrestling in that same seed ranking, if you will, are moving on. So I would expect him to be the favorite. Fine tournament for him to become a first-time All-American, not where he wanted to end up, but it doesn't always work out the way they want it to.
Yeah. So 133, Braden Davis finishes. Where does he finish in the lineup, and how did you view his performance given the up and down nature of his season with injuries and in and out of the lineup and all those things?
Yeah, comes into this tournament as the 8th seed, which means he was right on the line of being an All-American from the preceding perspective. We knew he was going to exit the championship bracket when he faced the top seed, Lucas Bird, in the quarterfinals. That's exactly what happened. Bird, of course, went on to win the national championship at 133 pounds. And I got to give Davis a lot of credit. You know, he could have very easily kind of quit and not wrestled his way back to 5th place, and he did. He won the matches he needed to become an All-American. And, you know, going into the tournament, I honestly don't even remember last week's show. I don't really remember much of the weekend, to be completely honest with you. It was just one big blur. But yeah, I would assume that we talked last week about the fact that if Penn State was going to become the second team ever to have 10 All-Americans, which it did accomplish, that Davis was kind of the question mark of whether or not that would happen. And obviously Penn State did come into this tournament with one injury we knew about, one injury we did not know about. We'll talk more about that later. But Davis got the job done. And I think he is someone who Penn State fans have a love-hate relationship with for a variety of reasons. But I'll tell you what, when the kid gets on his offense, he is really good. Just doesn't happen enough. That's something he'll have to work on this offseason.
Yeah, Bo Bartlett, Shane Van Ness, 141, 149. What did you see from these two wrestlers finishing where they did?
Yeah, Bo, and he always has a smile on his face. He's heading into the freestyle part of his career, which is the part of it he prefers. He always has said he likes freestyle more than folk style, and now he's going to focus on that exclusively. Bo, he said it afterwards. You almost felt bad standing there listening to him say it, but he said, I'm on that list that I didn't want to be on, and it's the list of guys who have finished in the top 3 multiple times at the national championships, but never won an NCAA title, and that's how his career is going to be remembered, T. Frank, as a guy who was really good, but not good enough to get the job done to win first place. Nothing wrong with that. A lot of guys would trade their careers for Bo Bartlett's, but another year where he does not make it to the top podium, but comes back and finishes third, ends his career with a win in the college ranks, which was great. And then, Shane Van Ness, just an interesting tournament for him, interesting season for him. There were times he looked like one of the more dominant wrestlers in the 149-pound weight class, and there were times when he just didn't, even though his record continued to be pretty good throughout the year. So, he had a fine tournament, and he will build on it going into 2025-2026. We do forget that he comes off a medical red shirt before the start of this season, so his first year back fully healthy, and he has a lot to work on, a lot to build on, rather. I'm sure he'd tell you he has a lot to work on too, but a 3rd place finish for him as well.
All right, so maybe one of the biggest surprises of this weekend, Tyler Kasak not becoming a national champion and finishing first overall in his weight bracket. What did you see? And I guess, coming in as the number 1 seed, how do you feel like the season finished up for Kasak?
Yeah, so Tyler Kasak comes into this tournament as the top seed at 157 pounds, and I don't know. It just looked like at times he got a little bit tired in a couple of his matches at the national tournament, and he ends up not making it to the finals, but does end up wrestling back for 3rd. I think he has a lot to build on. I asked him afterwards if he felt like 157 was the right weight for him. Obviously, he was 3rd place in All-American at 149 a year ago, bumps up to 57 this year, become a 2nd-time All-American, and he thinks it's the weight for him. So he will be the top-ranked wrestler at 157, I assume, when those new rankings come out for the new season. And he just has has to, I think, build up his base, build up his gas tank, no different than any other young wrestler, and keep adding strength. So not, I know a lot of people thought he would win the 157-pound title going into it. I know that it was a tough bracket, didn't end up the way he wanted to, but I don't know if it was a super shock that he did not make it to the finals, just because he's a young guy wrestling at a middleweight, and those are very competitive. So certainly, again, not the tournament he wanted, but he ended it on a high note.
But we're getting into some of the fun stuff now for Penn State fans, some of their national champions. Mitchell Messenbrink. How would you describe his tournament and his success at Penn State?
He's simply outstanding. If you don't, I've never watched his interviews. I encourage you once this show's over to head over to a different part of the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel and check out the interview he had after the semifinals and also the finals. He's just an incredibly insightful, smart person, and he gives a lot of great insight into not just the sport of wrestling, but just a whole bunch of other things. Anyway, he is who he is. He goes out and he talks fast and he wrestles fast and he scores a lot of points. Mikey Caliendo has found a way to slow him. Cameron Amin slowed him down in the quarterfinals from Oklahoma State, but none of them could come close to beating Mitchell Messenbrink. He wins his first NCAA title, two-time All-American now. Great tournament from him. What we expected, T. Frank. We said that there was no easier call in the 10 brackets than picking Messenbrink to win a title for the first time, and that's exactly how it played out.
So let's get to Levi Haynes now. What did you see from Haynes in the tournament?
Yeah, so Levi Haynes comes in. We thought he was going to face Keegan O'Toole in the finals if it worked out that way. It did not work out that way. Levi Haynes exited the championship bracket in the semifinals. Ultimately, wrestles back and finishes third. He was not available to talk afterwards, and I'm sure he was disappointed with the tournament he had. Like I said, many people thought he was going to face top seed Keegan O'Toole in the finals, and that did not come to fruition. But, you look at the season he had, I thought there were times where he didn't seem like his usual, hard-charging self. I'm not sure why that was. I'm not sure if it was the jump 2 weight classes or what it might be. But there were just times it didn't feel like he had everything that he's had in past seasons. So curious to see what the future holds for him. Is 174 the right weight for him? Is he going to need to move up? I kind of doubt that, but we'll see. But yeah, third place finish again. Penn State fans were pretty disappointed in the semifinal round for Penn State, and maybe in this tournament overall. And it's first team ever to have 10 top 6 finishers. And 9 of them are top 3 finishers. Or I'm sorry, 8 of them are top 3 finishers. What more could you ask for? I know, 10 national titles. I know, I get it. But
right.
Haynes certainly wanted to perform better, but I mean, not a bad tournament at the end of the day.
Yeah, it is amazing when you do something that hasn't happened in 100 years of having 10 national champion, having
first
10 All-Americans.
2001. Yeah, first team since 2001. Yes, yep.
Since 2001. I know they were chasing multiple records and they had multiple opportunities.
Yeah, it gets confusing, T. Frank. Don't worry about it. Yeah, there's a lot of dates and years to keep track of for sure.
So let's move on to Carter Sirachi, who is good no matter what.
Yeah, 5-time NCAA champ, first time. Presumably only 5-time NCAA champ. He had the extra year to come back because of COVID. Won 5 national championships. Finishes off a takedown of Parker Kikaisen of Northern Iowa in the 184-pound final to win his 5th and final title. We'll see what's next for Carter, but he had a mission, and it was not necessarily about winning titles. It was dominating everyone every time he stepped on the mat, and by and large, he did that over the last 5 years. So Penn State will miss him in the lineup. He scored a lot of team points for Penn State, won a lot of matches for Penn State, won a national title last year with one leg, and won it this year at a new weight class. So storied career. I guess I'm not sure. Obviously, 5-time All-American. There's been a few of those. Nick Lee, I think, was one. I'd have to go back and look and see how many of those there are. But certainly, Carter Sirachi had a tremendous career at Penn State, and it goes out the only way he knows how, winning a championship.
Yeah. And so 197, I think, coming in is probably the most interesting because of Josh Barr's injury, speaking of playing on one leg, competing on one leg, still makes a run. What happened, and how did you see his tournament unfold?
Yeah, so we knew he had the left leg injury coming off of Big Ten's, T. Frank. He showed up with some kind of a wrap or a sleeve over his left hamstring, thigh area, under his singlet, but you could see it, protruding out. So He was not wrestling at full strength, and not, a lot of guys aren't at the NCAA championships. It starts to come out. It's almost like hockey in a way, where after the tournament, you start hearing about all the injuries guys wrestled through. Same thing with hockey. At the end of the playoffs, you start hearing, guys played with this, that, and the other thing. Wrestling's the same way. So, when it comes to Josh Barr, he had a very good tournament, wins the rubber match with Jacob Cardenas of Michigan to go on to the finals, and loses to Stephen Buchanan of Iowa in a pretty hotly contested match, 5-2. Buchanan's an older guy, has a little bit more strength, a little bit more experience, and got the job done. But a tremendous first season in the starting lineup for Josh Barr at 197 pounds. And the future, it goes without saying, is extremely bright. The problem Penn State has, T. Frank, and I don't want to get too far into the rabbit hole here because it's going to be a topic for a future show, but I don't know what they're going to do at 184 and 197. You have Barr, obviously, who's second place finisher at 197. You have Connor Mirasola, a four-time state champ in Wisconsin, who redshirted this year, probably would have started for a lot of other teams. You have Zach Ryder at 184, another guy that redshirted this year. So you have a lot of talent, and I don't know how it all shakes out. Cale Sanderson and co., we talk about it all the time. Go back to last spring's lineup preview shows. They always find a way to figure it out, and they do, but it's going to be fascinating to see how that shakes out.
Now, the last weight, obviously, we're going to talk about here is heavyweight, 285, Greg Kirkfleet. Gable Stevenson was upset this weekend, but not by Greg Kirkfleet. So what did you make of his tournament?
Yeah, unfortunate news there that Greg Kirkfleet, came into the tournament with a left leg injury, banged up his knee in practice the week between Big Tens and Nationals. Gutted it out the best he could, and ultimately was not able to go in the medal round. Did secure All-American status for Penn State, one of 10 to do so. And it's just a shame his career ends that way, because there's no question that coming into the tournament, everyone was hoping for a Kirkfleet, Gable Stevenson final, and didn't get it. And then Wyatt Hendrickson of Oklahoma State ends up getting, by Kirkfleet, and then beats Gable Stevenson, and it was unbelievable moment in the Wells Fargo Center when that happened. So great for him. Unfortunate for Greg Kirkfleet, but he medically defaulted out of the remainder of the NCAA tournament, defaulted to sixth. We'll see what's next for his career. He's done some other types of wrestling in the past. We'll see if he continues to do so. But first, he's got to get that knee cleaned up. So we'll see.
Now, the last thing on the backside of that is the transfer portal. We started with the transfer portal. We're going to end with the transfer portal, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it a lot more, because that's what happens here in 2025 with college sports. So what's the latest on that front?
Yeah, so Penn State, as of 12:30 on March 24th, has 3 guys in the transfer portal. Alex Facundo, the former 165-pound starter who moved down to 157 this year, lost a job to Tyler Kasak, is one of them. Backup lightweight Gary Steen is another, and then Marco Vespa, another lightweight, is in the portal as well. So those 3 guys are in as of 12:30 on Monday, March 24th. The question everyone wants answered, will there be more? I don't know. I mean, we've brought this up a few times, T. Frank, in previous episodes here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, and we've written about it at bluewhiteillustrated.com. A lot of teams have been impacted by the transfer portal in terms of outgoing defections. Penn State's not one of them. Michael Beard, Terrell Barraclaw are the only 2 that really come to mind. Will Betancourt is wrestling somewhere else right now too. But like over the last handful of years, they're the only 3 I can think of, with Seth Nevels being a 4th down at Maryland. But there's a lot of guys on this roster who could start somewhere else. And the question they're going to have to ask themselves is, do they want to stay in this room? Obviously, the program and how it operates and everything means a lot to them, but they're good enough to get on the mat. And when you watch a team put up 177 points, break its previous record, have 10 All-Americans, and do all the things Penn State did at this championship, there has to be some guys that were a part of that championship celebration at the end thinking to themselves, this is awesome, but I could also be on the mat just like these guys are here. So time will tell. Those are the first 3 in. Will there be more? It wouldn't shock me, but we're not going to sit here and speculate who it could be. But I do think that there's going to be some more movement for Penn State this offseason. But obviously, when you get Ono, those defections don't hurt as badly as they might elsewhere.
Yeah, and obviously injuries are a thing. We've seen this team battle through a bunch of them this year to finish where they did, but you need 10, and it seems like Penn State has no shortage of talent, as we talked about previewing some of the good problems to have in the upper weights coming up with some super talented wrestlers on the trajectory upward, and we're going to follow that. I know it's March. They just won a national championship. We're going to be here the rest of the year in some form or fashion. Maybe not every single week throughout the rest of the year, but the Penn State Wrestling Show, like we did last year, is going to go into April, May, June, July, and we'll be here for the 2025-2026 season. So, Greg, as always, excellent job. Fantastic work from you. And we'll be back next time on the Penn State Wrestling Show.